Hey everyone, my name is WheatDraws, and chances are you are familiar with my work if you're watching this. If not, I'm an icon artist who's made hundreds of icon reskins, redesigns, and reimaginings for Dead by Daylight featuring its many characters throughout its entire roster. And I've also done Dead by Daylight concepts that you might have seen on YouTube, such as on the Rare Things YouTube channel as part of the Dead by Daylight Community Concept Team, or DBD-CCT. Basically, a lot of my work has done with revolved around what ifs or things related to Dead by Daylight. So that's kind of my whole thing. I've been hard at work for the last four or 5 years now, working on these icon-related projects or writing projects. And so I decided I would open up a Q&A forum, which many of my community have submitted questions to, and I tried to consolidate into similar questions and try to answer what I could. So without further ado, we'll start from the rip. I'm kind of put them together, so I might meander a little bit, but I'm going to try to keep this sort of straightforward. Who are your favorite non-licensed characters to draw from Dead by Daylight, and which are your favorite? Which has your favorite lore? So I think it'd have to be, it's been a while, I'm working on it right now, but it'd have to be Blight. It's been a long time since I updated Blight Pack, which is being fixed currently. But his Perk Pack was like getting constant updates for months straight after I started doing icons. For those in the know, he was basically the leading Perk Pack. He was at like 38 icons for like the longest time. And only recently got beaten out by perk updates. But yeah, I kept updating him from a year or two straight. And I really liked drawing him. I thought there was something so fascinating. I really enjoyed his character, and I liked the way he related to characters inside the fog rather than just what happened before he arrived, which is something I really wish Dead by Daylight would explore a bit more. As for just overall lore, though, I'm a big fan of Oni. I think Oni is one of the more unique characters in Dead by Daylight from a lore standpoint. And I also think historical transition periods are an incredibly cool place to set creative writing in. So because you look at like different sort of perspectives or the way the world changes around this character, and it's not that they change, it's that they're forced to exist in a changing environment. And I think Oni highlights that for me, especially with the desire to resume sort of the samurai way and not being able to because of changing cultures and environment. And even just as his add-ons expand on this lore in ways that any like amount of like tome or basic lore couldn't doesn't cover, like his son or his marriage, which I think is endlessly fascinating and I take a lot of inspiration from. What is the biggest animal you could beat in a fight? Probably a bear if I had a bear killing sword. We'll go with that. Do you have any non-Dead by Daylight interests or projects going on? Nothing I think I can say. I could say technically I'm working on like an early like document draft on a like board card game thing that's not exactly horror related but has some horror elements because I really like board games and card games. It's so early that I haven't actually done any playtesting with like other people, and I don't think there's anything about it to show off currently. If it mounts to something, then I'll probably show something off, but if it doesn't, this is the only time you'll hear about it. Other than that, I am actually really big into Flesh and Blood. That is a trading card game that I do enjoy a lot, so if you're a fan of that as well, yeah, I'm always happy to see other people also interested in it. I love indie video games. I love smaller scale video games. I really enjoy these like tight experiences. I don't really pay much attention to the AAA market other than just kind of the state of the industry as it is now, which is very unfortunate. My interests. I like TTRPGs, tabletop role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons. I've been running it for a long time. I'm a DM for 8 years now for my home game, my home group, and we're on our second campaign. and they're currently at level 9. And the first campaign ended at level 15. That's been very fun and very cool. I've also played other systems, like Kids on Bikes, which is very good if you like a more roleplay heavy experience, less dice rolls or complicated mechanics. Bunkers and Badasses, which is the Borderlands TTRPG, which I am fond of the series, but I have a complicated relationship with the games. And then recently I played Starfinder 2nd Edition playtest, even though I've never actually played a Pathfinder 2nd Edition game. But that's been fun. I'm filling in a spot for a friends group, which I enjoy. I like the character a lot. I like the dynamics. It's very fun to be able to play an RPG with other people and interact with them in such a way. How many icons have you made so far? Ooh, that's kind of a rough question. Okay, so I believe the Perk Pack series in total, all the icons across all those packs, is about 2,000. Around 2,000, a little less maybe. So that's 2,000 icons total. Concepts, I have no idea. But commissions, there's a lot of commissions I do not post at all for either requests, or it's something that they're usually really small commissions, or commissions I don't really, like, not to be rude about it, but I just don't really care to post. Like, when I post a commission, I'm usually like, hey, look, I think some of these are really, really cool that I really liked, or I really enjoyed doing at the very least, right? Or I just forget. I'm very forgetful in that kind of way, and I don't like optimizing algorithms to post on social media. I would say with missions and concepts in mind, maybe 1,000, so 3,000 total. It's a lot. It's got to be a lot somewhere. I don't want to count. That sounds like a nightmare because I don't save all the commissions. I usually I save the files of commissions I take. This is little WheatDraws trivia. I save the files of commissions I take, including like the file that I actually make them in, rather than just the image ones. And I save them for about a year, and then I cycle them out. I delete them, just so they don't clutter up a bunch of storage space. Yeah, I'll say 3,000, about 3,000. That's my guess. Do you have any favorite icons you've ever made? So there was someone who asked this question and said Party Skull doesn't count, but I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say Party Skull counts. So because someone else asked this question and they didn't specify that, so I'm answering that person at the very least. Party Skull is a classic WheatDraws icon. That was like before I changed to the W icon. That was like my go-to like brand for a less elegant term. Which it was originally an icon I made in 2020, and it was for FNAF concept. That was one of the first concepts I ever made, and it's kind of just become like a sort of secondary or alternate logo for my stuff that some people are very familiar with, and I just like it a lot. I have a couple personal like little pieces of like merch and stuff with it on that's only for me. Other than that, I'd have to say there's, I don't remember the name of it. There's a Hotline Miami icon with like the 3 masks alongside and the blood splatter that I really enjoy. That one is an icon I like a lot, and I get a lot of requests about making that into something like a patch or a sticker or something. So we'll see. Then there's the Terminator power icon I really enjoyed that I made just kind of on a whim, where I was like, I need to make a power icon, and I didn't know what to put on it. So I was like, I'll just make the head. And then I found like a really cool angle of reference that I wanted to use, and then I just went ham on it because I just really wanted to make it look like it was something metal, like something not human or bone. And I think it came out so well. The Predator power icon is one of my favorite examples of like how far I've come in terms of figuring out detail and shape in icons. I really enjoy that icon a lot. It's very simple and straightforward, but it works for me. And then I gotta pick one from like a Perk Pack series. So I'm gonna say Lich. I'm gonna say Vecna's No One Escapes Death. I really like the spell Finger of Death, and I was like, that's gotta be the spell for No One Escapes Death. and I had a really cool visual of like the flesh and muscle peeling back from the face of like an adventurer, like hairs getting blown back and like they're under the effect of the spell. It's just so cool to me. I'll put them on screen. I said I wasn't gonna edit this video, but I'll put them on screen. What is your go-to method when it comes to planning out an icon when making it? So I don't know if this is the correct term for it, but I'll use it anyway. Photo bashing every now and then, where you'll take, say, example, like a stock image, and you'll like lasso tool around like the forearm and bend it to a position that you prefer or want it to be for your reference. And I kind of just like piece together like a Frankenstein like body pose or some sort of like angle that I want to achieve. And if I can't do that, which is usually when I want more humans like interacting in a very specific way or angle, when I can't do that, I'll usually find, I'll just like do a doodle, like a straightforward like scribble. And as long as I understand what I'm looking at, I think it works. But if you've ever commissioned me, sometimes I have to explain, okay, wait, this is what this doodle or scribble is. I'm editing this anyway. I'll put some scribbles of like commission work in progresses that I've done in the past for examples of like how it looks and then how it turned out. But when I make it, I try to figure out how do I make something that looks that like visually on a smaller scale will still look interesting and unique, and you can still kind of make out what it looks like without having to zoom in too closely. Because if you pack in so much detail, it's going to get lost in the mess. And then also working with negative space, it's like a whole mess. But honestly, it's just years of doing it has eventually gotten me to find a rhythm and a means of doing it that I enjoy and I think looks good. Ultimately, it's whatever I think ends up looking good. Like, I want to please myself first before I please somebody else, unless they're commissioning me, which is like, obviously I got to please them first. But yeah, you get it. I'm talking straight to you. You get it. But yeah, I try to do other different tricks or mediums to visualize it, even if I have to like take pictures of my own hand at like different angles and use it. Very fun being an artist. How did you start making the Perk Pack series? What inspired it? Ooh. So Perk Pack series, I think, started in late 2020. Yeah, late 2020. So this was like just after I started doing like some concept ideas. It was very, I remember being like, so for reference, I didn't play on PC for a long time, but I had a PC and a laptop I could draw on. I played on console, Dead by Daylight, but I kept seeing like teachable perks, like in the flavor and the idea of characters like Nea Carlson showing Dwight Fairfield, here's how you can land and not fuck up your ankles every single time, was a cool idea of like, okay, well, it's one thing to like reskin it or redraw them as those characters, but I thought, well, like, how would they interpret it, right? So like if you had like Laurie Strode saying, oh, here, like Decisive Strike, I grabbed like a needle and I stabbed Michael in the neck, right? That's like what Decisive Strike is kind of meant to be, but they changed it to a piece of glass. And like that's the flavor of the perk. But like if Laurie was showing Ash Williams, that he would go, oh, so it's like with a Kandarian dagger, so it's him holding the dagger. And it's like little reinterpretations of that, not even just reskins, where it's like, here's how that character would understand this perk. And I think that was where it jumped off with. For the first pack, I believe, was Cannibal, and then it was Legion, like very old packs. And people ended up liking them. There's only a few icons in each. People liked them, and so I just kept doing them. And eventually, I kind of got myself in the mess of doing packs for everybody, which is constant work throughout the month. I think Cannibal started with 5 icons, actually. And then it just sort of ended up blooming into what it is now. Do you have any commissions that you feel especially proud of making? Okay, that's interesting. It has to be. So here's the thing. I wouldn't have added or even included this part of this answer in this if I didn't feel comfortable with answering it. And I'm gonna give two examples. One that's like way earlier in my like process of doing icons, and then one that I actually did fairly recently. I'll say fairly because I think it was like start of this year or like middle of this year. So the first one, I am a huge fan of Black Christmas, the original Black Christmas, and I had been contacted to do a commission for a full like suite of icons, add-ons. I think it was all add-ons. I think so. Maybe it's been a while. I'll find the image. I'll put it on screen. But it was all icons, perks, and I think a power icon. But the whole like thing of I was approached by like, hey, can you do this? And I'm pretty sure I responded with, yes, I will do it. This is awesome. I love Black Christmas, and so I did that, and I think that's one of the commissions that like in that era of my quality, I think is like a highlight for me because I vividly remember the glass unicorn. Not really spoilers, but whatever. The glass unicorn add-on. It's ultra rare. It's fucking awesome. It was my first time like trying to figure out how to do a glass object in Dead by Daylight icon, which was an interesting challenge. And there's also the perk with the eye peeking out, which I really enjoyed. But it was so fun to do that because it gave me an excuse to rewatch the movie a bunch of times for references. What was I saying? Oh, the other one was more recent. I got commissioned to do Blasphemous, which is a sort of I guess Metroidvania is the correct term. If not, I guess I'm getting killed. It's this game that uses a bunch of like religious imagery and Catholicism type imagery. It's got like this fantasy type feel. It's kind of like a Dark Souls game almost, if you want to call it that. And I was and this was for like a different reason. I was presented like a full, like super neat and detailed Google document with everything in the world I ever could need, including image references, YouTube links with timestamps, and every aspect of the details without being overbearing that I could use and where I had my freedom to interpret things. And it was so good that it finally convinced me to buy Blasphemous. And I played it during the commission, and I believe I had to apologize to the client because I was like, I'm delayed by like a week of progress or like a few days at the very least because I was too busy playing Blasphemous. Very fun commission. I'll put it on screen if it's not already. I got to use a lot of these cool like motifs, like different armor designs, and it was interesting to find a middle ground between all this impressive detail and making it so that it read easily on screen. Also, I got to make a perk frame for a perk type for that concept, which was very fun. I like perk frames. I think they're neat. Yeah, I'd say it'd have to be those two. It was so fun to work on those. As an artist, it's very easy to kind of be like, well, I'm doing a commission because I need the money. I'm doing a commission because I want to like get commissions out of the way or whatever. But when you get to do something that you really love or you get really excited about, it feels so good. You get like so empowered. And I feel like with me, that's been a drive for me a lot. Like, you'll see that with my work when I'm very excited about something. Yeah, that was a longer ramble than it needed to be. What do you struggle with when it comes to making icons, such as finding inspiration, what to base it on, or what felt difficult to achieve? With the Perk Pack series, if a character doesn't have like a ton of visual callbacks or tropes associated with them, it gets kind of rough and difficult to make up visuals for them, right? Like, if there's not like for example, Saw as a movie series has a lot of very striking visual imagery that doesn't feel the same, at least very often. So you have like the different traps, you have the different victims, stuff like that. But then you have like, even it's pretty rough with like original characters as well, where they don't have a ton of lore, or they don't have a ton of story to go with them. So there's not a lot to draw on other than the tropes that they're hopefully based on. With So you'll see like a lot of icons that have a lot more icon diversity or like imagery diversity. It's usually informed based on the character design, their tropes, or the lore that they have set up, assuming they're not licensed. If they are licensed, then it becomes a lot easier because obviously I can pull from different media that isn't just Dead by Daylight, right? Um and sometimes with like concepts, sometimes I don't like ripping an image from a thing one to one. Like so you'll see it in some icons, but not all, because it's like sometimes what works well on a movie screen doesn't always work well on a perk icon. So you have to make like adjustments or trying to fix things or skew things one way or the other, and that doesn't always work. Or sometimes it works way better. I do struggle a lot with stuff like that. Original characters, especially for Dead by Daylight in icons. Finding inspiration really is rough, though I am happy to have hobbies and interests that include a bunch of very talented artists that I can draw inspiration from. Like for example, there's a couple icons that I've made in the past that I've already said are direct inspirations from games or games or other media that I've consumed. Like Hollow Sensation from the FNAF concept on Michael is meant to be a reference to Time Walk from Magic the Gathering. Or there's the original version of Predator's Cowardice perk was meant to be a reference from Boldweir Intimidator from Magic the Gathering as well. It turns out being into card games gives you a lot of really cool artistic inspiration. And then there's like other things like with what am I thinking of? Oh, I got sidetracked so bad. My brain started going a different way. But it is very difficult to achieve. I will say that. I don't think I'll be able to come back to this question, so I'm just gonna say there. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to say that. Oh, right. Amnesia. Amnesia's outburst icon was originally in the design document named Half-Light, and then eventually turned into Outburst. But the icon always remained the same, and it's a callback, or not callback, sorry, a reference to Half-Light from Disco Elysium, which is sort of this like violent blur of imagery, which I really liked. I thought it was a super cool visual. Yeah. Stuff like that. Inspiration, honestly, you can find inspiration in other creative media and bring it in. And worst case scenario, it becomes a reference rather than you're just like stitching in something completely unrelated. What comes first or is more important when you make Dead by Daylight concepts? Power, perks, add-ons, etc. Oh, that's interesting. I think it varies. So I'm a big fan of top-down design, but I do enjoy designing bottom-up. For example, top-down design is effectively a design method of you develop the aesthetics, this like character, this like persona, everything, the shell of this character, right? And then you have to work your way inwards, make the ribs, make the heart, make the intestines, and that's what the backstory, the mechanics, like how this character does the thing, etc. So like with adapting licenses, you're doing top-down design, right? For example, like Malignant chapter concept, when I did that, I was like, okay, well, I know everyone wants like a human disguise killer, but I don't want to do that for Gabriel. I want to do that for probably something else. And I already kind of did that with the Thing, and I didn't feel like it did anything for me here. So I wanted a killer that could leap, because Gabriel has this like agility, this insane agility and ability to bound and leap and go in different directions, not even just like on a horizontal plane, but like vertical too. So I wanted to develop a leaping system. And I wrote that in, and I was like, that's going to be his thing. He's going to be able to jump up onto walls, and he's going to be able to jump back off them. He's going to be able to chain them together. And it would be like sort of the similar like mechanical requirement of, say, like playing like Wesker or something, or Blight. And that was like the main inspiration. I wanted something that felt like, oh, this would have a lot of cool potential mechanically. So I wanted to make sure I felt that fantasy that I thought fit better, rather than just, what if Gabriel disguised himself and then he hit you. Like, there's nothing wrong with that line of thought, but I don't think it really gets you anywhere that makes it feel like I'm doing something that could be in the game. And that's honestly one of my main goals. And I will say with adapting these things, specifically, I'd said it with the concepts that go onto the Rare Things YouTube channel, the Dead by Daylight community concept team. Those concepts were made first and foremost, not just for the fans, but to show people who aren't fans or kind of sitting on the fence about it, that this could be cool. It doesn't need to be this, but it could be really cool. And so I wanted to like have a draw bringing those people in, because if I'm just fan service, I could just say, well, he just goes up, kills, and he has an insta-mori effect, like he's got a pyramid head or Onryo kill effect on the power, stapled on the power, and it's like, yeah, but like why? Like, it doesn't work, it doesn't make sense. And so I'm finding a weird balance to that. And I do think what's important is finding the fantasy in that character, whether it's original or it's licensed. Because at the end of the day, the idea of, say, Michael Myers stalking you is incredibly fitting and scary, and he gains power from that observation of people. And it's incredibly fitting for his character. Even if it's not like super strong or powerful or top tier, it's evocative. It's so good. It resonates with you. And if you have something that doesn't fit the license or this character, then it's obvious that there's a weird, like, it rubs the wrong way, right? And granted, I'm not someone who knows these things exactly. Like, I can't like say that I've had a good track record with it. But like, at the very least, acknowledging and knowing these patterns and these design, what should come first is something that is, I would say, more personal to the person. But for me, it's very much the fantasy. And on perks, I will say I don't design perks to fit the character. Sometimes I find out that it fits or think it fits, but I want perks that cause a discussion point or are like, oh, that'd be cool. Like, it makes you, it's not just, oh, that'd be strong. It's like, oh, that'd be neat. I could see myself running that maybe as like my 4th perk slot or my 3rd perk slot, right? Because, you know, the first 2 are going to be the people's comfort perks or the perks they think are like really meta at the moment, like gender regression or entity blocking, stuff like that. So I want to make perks that fill those 3rd and 4th slots, if I can, at the very least. That way it's not just like, oh, whatever. Like, you can just like brush past it and not think about it. Add-ons are like honestly one of the last things I think about, unless it's like super integral to the design. Especially with, it's just like, it's not something I think about often. But I would say the most important part is the fantasy and the power. Like, you have to nail that. Otherwise, even fans of the character will click off, or at worst, they'll be mad that it doesn't make sense. Which I can attest to for sure. Do you feel your writing has improved since working on Dead by Daylight concepts and the archive entries? So the archive entries, for those who don't know, is a series of additional lore that has been added to concepts, starting with, I think the first one was in August, and that was Control. Control feature was kind of a testing the waters. Control was a tome, was an archive entries where there was 3 stories. 2 of them belonged to Jacket, known as the Animal, and 1 of them belonged to Jack Wynand, which was the survivor for Bioshock. And it was like, okay, let's have a brief little short story for each of these characters. Jacket got 2 because it was a 2-parter. And let's just have them explore these characters in either moments that already exist, or can bridge that gap of them going into the fog or after they enter the fog. And so I wanted to do this, and I've gotten, thankfully, like, positive responses from it. So I continued to do it. I think we're on 3 now. We finished 3. 4 is on its way. Should be out by the end of the year, end of 2024. And they're not just expanding licensed characters, but also my original concepts, which with Coven of the Void, which will be my 3rd original chapter concept, which is part of like a little trilogy I have set up. Coven of the Void and the Archive 4 should be like not wrapping up, but like tying together more tying together more solidified strands of the overall story together. And I'm thankful that people pay attention to it, that they're excited for it, they're interested. And hopefully we'll get some more guest writers on and people to write stuff for these characters because I'm happy to expand my stuff, even if it's not like a financially rewarding thing. Like, this is all for free. Like, this is not like none of this is paywalled, and it's like I enjoy seeing people like enjoy my work. I'm very much a person who likes seeing the reactions to my stuff. But I do think my work has gotten better. My writing especially. I have been writing for a long time, and not like on a professional level or anything, but it's nice to feel like I haven't peaked. I haven't gotten to the maximum of my limit or my abilities, because every single time I start writing, I'm like, oh, that'd be cool, because I'm writing in these different genres, these different characters, and I'm discovering more things, ways I can depict things, or reading other people's work and like realizing, oh, that's a cool trick that they did there. I recognize that, so I'm gonna like keep that in mind if I ever need to do something like that, and just be inspired by that. Do you ever feel nervous about sharing your concepts you've done, especially original ones? Definitely, all the time. So the biggest hurdle for me personally is someone could look at it and say they don't care. Like when I first did it, and especially even still now, I did it just for fun. A lot of the nerve I feel is more just knowing that I have an expectation on me to put out. Like, I don't like it, and I've told like friends about this before. I don't like being known as like the concept or the icon guy. It's weird. It puts an inherent expectation on myself from others and from me, right? Because like it's one of those things of like people expect like sort of high quality, like these like every icon's accounted for, every little tidbit of writing is accounted for, and it's just like I'm kind of just doing this. I'm kind of just on my own figuring it out. But like even then, like I mentioned in the previous answer, my biggest goal is to kind of just go, hey, look how cool this is, and I hope someone takes the time to look at it and go, neat. At the very least, and best case scenario, they stick around, they see what else I got, they see what else I can offer, what else I do, and they the impossible scenario is they end up going, yeah, I'm gonna support you. But even then, like nerves like really strike me in terms of finishing one, because it's like, again, the expectation. It's cool to see the reactions, but like I'm never gonna shake off the fact that people wait and they hear me say I'm doing this, and they go, oh wow, that's crazy, and it's a full following, and it's not gonna obviously relate to people who don't have a following based on that or whatever. But I don't think I'm alone, or anyone's really alone in thinking they work on something that they really like or they think is really cool, and they're afraid someone is just going to go, I don't care, right? That's just an inherent fear of your interests being like not under siege, but you know, it feels like they're endangered. But like I would say one thing that I did get over when I was like still doing this on a small scale is it's very niche. It's a very niche part of Dead by Daylight, and it's like I got the attention I did because I got incredibly lucky. This isn't like a skill thing or like that I'm just better than other people at this thing. It's like I got the opportunities to put my stuff on a much bigger platform that steadily grew because I had those opportunities and because I contributed to them. So like it's not going to be a one-to-one relationship. You're going to feel nervous. You're going to feel a little bit scared about publishing your stuff. But I think it's worth doing that because worst case scenario, you can see the people that do care. It's very easy to tell when someone gives you criticism and is just not enthused by it, or rather than they just don't like it because without any feedback. So you can use that to improve in the way people react to it, and you can find out that's what people like, that's what people want to see from this. And it's just sort of like, that's one thing that I'm really happy with what I do now is I given myself the opportunity for my concepts to revisit and adjust old stuff and revise it to figure out, I want to make this better. I want to make this cooler. And so I've done that. Like there's older concepts that are getting reworked or have been reworked or rebalanced, just because that's like, I know I can do better. Because like I said before, you aren't ever going to master. You're never going to peak because you can keep improving. The best thing to do is if you're stuck on something or you realize that's not working out, you can do something else, come back to it later, and then when you redo it or you readjust it, you can go, wow, I've got a way clearer head on this. I can think about this thing, that thing. And you have an idea of how to do it better. And it's just improvement. That's all it is. It's not like you should be expect to like listen to this or any other tutorial and immediately understand like, here's how I do it, best way possible. Like honestly, all the stuff I've said this before, all my stuff is like the same food that everyone else is kind of putting on a platter, except for I've set it up so I have my own custom like silver engraved platter that I'm serving food on, and everyone goes, oh, what a nice platter, and they think the food looks nicer because of that. Like that's really just it. And it's in its presentation. Presentation is a huge thing, and I feel like if I didn't have that, I feel like I wouldn't like have that same sort of expectation on me. So I feel like if you're just doing this for fun and you're just like posting them online anywhere, I don't think you should expect to get the same amount of attention on this type of thing. It's like, it's so niche. The amount of people that do pay attention to it are very small. And if anything, find the people in the communities like mine, or there's a couple other creators that have communities like that do their own original concepts or promote those concepts. Go into there, show off your stuff. Those are the best ways to like reach out to other people and who want to see that stuff. Because people who go out of their way to find that will see it. And then if you're lucky, you'll catch a few strays that will go, wow, this really is cool, and they'll come along. That's kind of how I got my following for people who didn't know I did videos, which is, there are a few of them that didn't know I did the videos on the Rare Things channel. But yeah, I hope that was coherent enough. There's really just in my mind not a ton of advice for that, other than like realizing you and anything you can improve over time, and be accepting something of knowing that it's not good now, but maybe later you'll be able to improve it. Is there a concept you've always wanted to do but never have, either in a video or on your website? I've always wanted to do a Night of the Living Dead concept, specifically Ben from the original movie. I really like Ben from that movie. The movie's always stuck with me as just like a very cool movie that is public domain, which is neat. The remake's cool. It's got Tony Todd in it. I'm not a huge fan of the way they shifted the ending. But I do like Barbara's characterization in that. But like Ben, for sure, it's such a like, it's like a guilty pleasure movie of like, it's not like peak, but I think it really is like emblematic of a character or even just a point in time that like we don't have in Dead by Daylight. And I haven't done it purely because I, one, don't have the time, and two, it's one of those things where it's like, I would like to see it officially. I don't really think anything I could add or do for it would be interesting, but who knows, maybe I'll do it in the future. But I've got other priorities above that right now, so would you do any other chapter concept spotlight video collabs like on the Rare Things YouTube channel? That is a trickier question. I know people know me mostly for working on the Rare Things channel. And let's get this out of the way. I'm not under like some sort of fucking NDA or whatever, or some exclusivity thing. Like I can do whatever the hell I want. I'd love to do more videos. I really would. my role for the team was not just like writing and art stuff. I was kind of a people wrangler. Anyone who kind of works on any of the videos kind of knew me as the guy who just talked to all the people that were involved that wasn't part of the core team. Translators, voice narrators, render artists, model artists, stuff like that. Yeah, I believe after Predator, everything, so it'd be FNAF onwards, I wrote everything that was involved, lore included, before we just copy pasted lore, I think, from the wiki. And that was also before we had a scroll bar. We didn't invent the scroll bar for concepts yet, which is crazy. We had to implement that and everything. Or Rare Things had to implement that and everything. But it was just a PNG. That's all it was. Yeah. So I'm down to do more. It's like, it's one of those things, like, I don't really know who to reach out to that would want to do that. And I haven't been approached by anyone to do that. Specifically on that scale of those videos. I would love to do it. I think it's fun. I'm not against it. I've said it probably not like super publicly before, but if people want to take my stuff and adapt it into a video like that, I'm all game for it. I just would like to be notified, and just do what I can. I like being involved with stuff, right? There is one thing I can think of off the top of my head that involves some stuff that I've done being put into something, but I don't think I can say it right now. It's not like a huge, like, crazy thing, but it is something that I just don't think I can say it because, like, I don't think there's anything out about it just yet. But who knows? I'll probably post about it on socials when it does happen. But yeah, anything that my older designs are involved with, I would love to know. If you are someone who wants to make something like that, let me know. Or like we want to adapt it to animation or something like that. I'm so down. I'm so down to talk shop. You have a collab section on your website for concepts. What qualifies as a collab for you? So mostly my involvement in the project. So like, this isn't like for commissions that I do like icons for, right? Because then otherwise I'd have a fuck ton of concepts on the site. I really like being into the design and development of a video or something. For example, like I wrote up like I said, all the all the written aspects of the videos on the Rare Things channel. And I did so in collaboration with the team and mostly Rare Things when designing and like giving feedback and direction on the video itself. And script writing as well. I did the scripts. Pixelbush, for example, did the Martha Jones lore for the Doctor Who concept as well as the archive story. And I had asked him for help on consulting for add-ons, the power, and some other character-related stuff, because I know he's more familiar with Doctor Who than I am. I have my own connections to Doctor Who that weren't quite as strong, but I did want to do the concept. So I felt appropriate. I felt it was appropriate to label it as a collaboration rather than just, oh yeah, he did some stuff. Probably if I did anything like that under those two types of descriptions, it would probably go under the same banner of a collab. So yeah, it's still open to interpretation as of right now. It's not like a super strict thing, but it definitely isn't, I did icons for you, therefore it is collab. Yeah. There's not really that many other questions going through. It's a lot of duplicates. I think I covered most everything anyway, other than a couple questions that were kind of weird. So yeah, that was 40 minutes. Fuck, that was a long ass Q&A. Or at least it felt like it. Thank you so much for everyone who submitted questions. Thank you for you if you're still listening. Appreciate it a lot. If you enjoy my work or you want to see more of my work, you can find me at WheatDraws with a little dot right before WS at the end. That's my website. It will be on screen, probably in the description. If I forget it, you can just look me up on Google and you'll find me. You can find me there. I'm on Blue Sky now. I'm going to be moving off of Twitter by the end of 2024. So Don't look for me there. You can support me on Ko-fi, Patreon, and basically anywhere else. I got a little merch store. I got a little merch store for a couple things. Nothing to announce as of now. And I'm just kind of doing my thing. Nothing really too special. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for watching or listening, and appreciate the time you spent here. Goodbye.